Brandon Lewis here, excited to have you joining me for another edition of the Tennessee Conservative News Break, where we bring you the state and local stories all across Tennessee that conservatives actually care about. And we're going to try to let you know what's going on in the inner workings of government in Tennessee, the things that often the mainstream media simply will not bring you because they don't want you to know about it. But here at the Tennessee Conservative News, we're going to bring that to you, and you're going to like the stories that we have today. We're leading off with a couple of really good ones, and I hope that you're going to enjoy those. There was some spirited um, activism going on yesterday at the state capitol, and we can bring you all of that information if you go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com. We have in-depth coverage of all these stories so that you can keep up to date. And please do share our stories with your conservative friends and forward those, share them. And if you go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support and you give any amount to help conservative news outlets who are fighting the fake news, we'll send you 2 proud Tennessee conservative bumper stickers and a directory of all elected officials at the state level, the ones of the most important. And if there's ever anything that's going on and you want to reach out to a legislator to tell them what you think about a bill that's in committee or subcommittee or on the floor, you can use this handy dandy resource guide to do that, and we'll send it to you. You can pin that puppy up on your refrigerator, and anytime something's coming down the pipe, you'll know about it, and you'll be able to get in touch with them if you are a Tennessee Conservative News email subscriber. And also, if you give $50 or more, we will send you this handy dandy Tennessee Conservative, proud Tennessee Conservative tumbler. And if you put regular motor oil in this and then you pour it out, it turns into very expensive synthetic motor oil. This thing has magical properties, and if you give $50 or more, we'll send that right to you. All right, guys, so let's get into the headlines right now. A vaccine medical exemption bill passes the Tennessee or Senate committee with support from across the state. And there really was a lot of support. There was an outpouring of grassroots activists. They went up to the Capitol and really shared their opinion about this bill. And maybe if you were there, comment in the comments section. Tell us what it was like. If you've got pictures, if you've got video, put them in the comments section. You can private message them to the Tennessee Conservative. We got some really good bird's eye view pictures and video from that day, thanks to the folks over at Tennessee Stand. So here it is. Senate Bill 187 was passed in the Senate Health and Welfare Committee and will now move on to the Calendar Committee, which means it's going to get put on the floor for a vote. And it's got to go through the House as well. And, you know, a lot of those bills were defeated in the House by folks that really don't understand that their role as representatives is to protect our liberties and to protect our freedoms, not to be nannies or caretakers or physicians tell us about our health. And so this would keep Tennesseans from being forced to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, and it's sponsored by Republican Senator Janice Bowling. And if you know Janice Bowling, tell her that the folks over at the Tennessee Conservative News really appreciate her standing up for her district and not bowing to the Hospital Association, not bowing to the Medical Association to take away your medical freedoms in any environment. And it's also Republican Representative Bud Halsey, and he is carrying this thing in the House, as far as I understand from this report. And Bowling said this, and if you've tuned out, tune in. This is good stuff. Bowling said this: look at what we've seen in the last 12 months. Things that have not happened in the history of the United States all across the country. Constitutions have been shredded, businesses forcibly shut down, churches shut down, schools closed, people told to cower in their homes and houses. You remember Bill Lee canceled Christmas, right? You're a Tennessean. You have rights to be protected under the Constitution. What does Bill Lee do? It says, hey, you can't get together with your family. You can't get together with your family on Christmas. You can't get together with your family on Easter or on Christmas. You can't get together with your family on Thanksgiving. This is Bill Lee, who walked that back. You know, you heard his little flippant announcement, and then you never heard another peep about it because I think he knew he stepped in it. He's got his political radar is very mixed. Senate Bill 187 passed the Health and Welfare Committee with an 8-1 vote. Tennessee Stands marched from the Legislative Plaza to Cordell Hall building, where We the People rally was in support of the bill. And Gary Humble of Tennessee Stand said, "We are excited that it passed. This bill is not quite what HB 10 set out to do, but it goes beyond HB 13. And so, all in all, we moved the ball forward. Now it's our job to keep fighting." And what you'll learn, and as a hope, and you're somebody who really keeps up with news, or you wouldn't be watching this, and you're somebody who's interested in what's going on at the state legislature, or you wouldn't watch this. Sometimes we got to get our little wins, right? We got to sneak it past the hospital association. We got to sneak it past the medical association to just get our freedoms back. And we have to make representatives and senators go on the line and get on the record so that when they run in primaries, you can put a big sign up that says, "Hey, these people are for forced vaccination. These people are anti-medical choice," and you just let people know that in the primary and let the primary voters make the decision. But you have to sometimes win these little victories legislatively so that you can move on and try to take a swing at greater freedom in other sessions. And so Senator Mark Pody, thank goodness, from Lebanon, and Quincy McKnight spoke at the rally in support of the bill. And I'm looking at a lot of, as I examine this more and more, what I'm increasingly convinced of is we've got some liberal Republicans, some rhinos in the state, and they're mainly in these suburban and metro areas. These are very liberal places like Chattanooga, Knoxville, Nashville. You've got these very liberal, gentry, country club Republicans, and if it weren't for a lot of our rural Republicans who are really conservative, like Pody and McKnight, we'd be really up the creek. And if you are joining us for the first time, or if you're a regular viewer of this and you keep up with our publication, drop a comment and just tell me where you're from. Just go to the comment section as I do this broadcast. I always love to see people from all over the state tuning in. And of course, a lot of people see this in replay. They can't catch it during the day. They've got a job that they work. But go ahead in the comments section. Let me know that you're watching. Put your city and that you're watching from. And if you've got a link to any of the stories at TennesseeConservativeNews.com that you like, drop a link in there. Let us know that we're doing a good job. And if there's something you want covered, put it in the comments section. So here's another one. This is funny. Tennessee inmate runs international crime network from jail. One Tennessee inmate spent at least 3 years running an international crime ring from the inside of the prison, according to prosecutors. The prisoner is Humberto Morales, also known as Pelon, a man sentenced in 2016 to 48 years for conviction in an aggravated robbery charge in Williamson County. So, here you got this guy who's coming, from Mexico, likely, if you read on in the rest of the story, and we've got this huge crisis at the southern border that the Biden administration does not seem interested in fixing, but rather promoting. And they've made Kamala Harris the border czar. I'm sure she's going to get right down there and fix this problem really quickly. She's somebody that's very big on national sovereignty, I'm sure. Morales faces a new string of 13 charges related to his participation in a long-running international drug ring. The charges in conspiracy include kidnapping, threats via electronic communication, money laundering, and firearms violations. From prison. According to investigators, Morales was the ringleader of an excessively violent ring in Middle Tennessee. They say he orchestrated a number of violent acts as well as instructed the flow of cash from drug sales between the area and Mexico. Surprise, surprise. Prosecutors say the planning took place using contraband cell phones and encrypted messaging apps such as WhatsApp. A federal grand jury has brought charges against 27 people so far in the case. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, that sounds like the kind of inside job you'd have to have help with, but who knows? We'll let that play out in the courts. Next story. TennCare fraud cases on the rise. As if it's ever any surprise that government programs where free anything is given away get taken advantage of. I mean, they get taken advantage of just in the running of them in such an inefficient manner. It takes money out of the pocket of you, the taxpayer. It distributes it, with probably a 20 cents on the dollar, ends up going to anybody that needs it. And then you have a bunch of people that just, that they take advantage of it in an unethical way. In March alone, there were 6 separate cases of TennCare fraud reported in Tennessee. This number is up from only 1 case in February and another single case in January. What they mean is the ones that are caught. The cases from March involve offenders all across Tennessee and from other states, including New Hampshire and Georgia. How does that happen? Inspector General Kim Hammond says our agency works diligently to save both state and federal Medicaid dollars from being stolen. Collaborative efforts with local sheriff offices and law enforcement helps us make sure that these dollars in TennCare are reserved for Tennesseans. I mean, they're trying, but when the government tries to run a program, it's usually about like when your 6 or 7 year old tries to help you with a project. You spend more time cleaning up their mess, but they got to learn somehow, right? But the government unfortunately never learns; they just keep doing it poorly. A 6 year old, usually turns it around over a while. Back to the article. The Office of the Inspector General has invested more than 5,760 criminal was investigated rather more than 5,760 criminal cases, leading to more than 10.8 million being repaid to TennCare. Total estimated cost avoidance of more than 163.6 million, according to the latest figures. To date, and this is interesting, 3,107 people have been charged with TennCare fraud, and that's just the ones you catch. Right. For a full rundown of the cases, you can go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com and look at the links there, and we'll send you directly to those cases. It's funny. It kind of reminds me of airport screening, right? You go to the airport, and ever since 9/11, everybody's got to strip down, go do a full cavity search. That makes flying a lot of fun. Makes people really want to do it. Now that you got a mask up, or they'll kick you off the plane, and of course, unless you're John Kerry. But at any rate, all this stuff, and when they send independent auditors behind the TSA, they find that about 70% of the contraband, guns, etc., gets through the screening process. So it's really there, kind of like masks, to make people feel better, but it's just not really very effective. Next story on the national level. Biden pushes $2 trillion in infrastructure spending plan. Biden unveiled a spending proposal called Build Back Better plan at an event in Pittsburgh. I'm sure he took lots of hard questions from the press there in Pittsburgh, just real hardball from the mainstream media. Biden called for spending $620 billion on transportation infrastructure, including 20,000 miles of road and thousands of bridges, $650 billion to expand broadband access, and $580 billion on research and development, with some more specific items to include $174 billion to, as Biden put it, win the electrical vehicle market, and $6 billion to plug orphaned oil and gas wells. I'm glad that they're electric, but here in Tennessee, they just run on coal and TVA. I mean, they're coal-powered cars. And I saw this in the Obama administration, where lots of money was thrown at charging stations, and you started seeing these charging stations float everywhere. They show up at convenience stores, they show up at businesses, and when you drive by an electric charging station in Tennessee, there's hardly ever a car on those puppies. And I've recently seen a lot of them being ripped out. I don't know if you've seen that, but I've seen a lot of them ripped out of the ground. Christine, thank you for joining us from Humboldt, Tennessee. Mary Flannery is here from Knoxville. Mary Ann is here from East Tennessee in Elizabethton. I hope I pronounced that right. You never know how people will report it. Kella Nick is watching from Oregon. Everybody really wants to know what's going on here. Friendsville, we got Daniel, John, and Mayland. Thank you for coming on. Philip Davis in Manchester again. Glad that you're here, guys. I really appreciate it. So back to the story here. The funny thing is, right? I'm going to go through the rest of this, but Mitch McConnell said there would have been bipartisan support, as if they need it now, for a small proposal. Unfortunately, the latest liberal wish list, the White House has decided to label infrastructure as a major missed opportunity by the administration. The plan is not about rebuilding America's backbone. Less than 6%, get this, less than 6% of this massive proposal goes on roads and bridges. It would spend more money just on electric cars than on America's roads, bridges, ports, airports, and waterways combined. Again, these are these pet projects like Solyndra and other alternative energy projects, which are really about giving a handful of crony capitalism dollars out to these alternative energy companies and giving them control over your life. And so, of course, congressional Democrats accuse Biden of what? Not spending enough of your tax dollars. Other national story. Texas governor demands Biden administration answer questions about the border crisis. Following Kamala Harris being appointed by Biden to oversee the border crisis, I'm sure that's going to go great. Texas Governor Greg Abbott sent her a letter asking her to answer questions about how the federal government is responding to the crisis. A portion of the letter said, I want to express to you the threats and challenges caused by the administration's open border policies. And that's what they are, guys. These are open border policies. There's no two ways about it. And these policies, going back to the governor, embolden and enrich cartel smugglers and human traffickers who continue to ramp up their criminal operations. Given your new role as the border czar, I urge you to visit the border and see the crisis for yourself. And I implore the Biden administration to take swift action in cracking down on human trafficking to prevent more children being trafficked and abused. And there are currently more than 18,000 illegal immigrant unaccompanied minors in federal custody in Texas. 18,000 kids unaccompanied. This is all on the Biden administration, every bit of it. UTC, wants everybody at their university to get a jab in the arm. And Smith, who is there, who's heading this up, strongly urges that students, faculty, and staff get the vaccine and stated to return to a normal campus life, we have to get vaccinated to continue to follow the guidance of the CDC, the Tennessee Department of Health, and our local health department. These are young kids that are not at risk of any great health effects in almost every case. There may be a few exceptions. And one of the freshman UTC students, and I know 2 or 3 kids going to UTC right now, and they are not getting a true college experience. They are getting the shaft, and they're charging them the same amount of money for sitting at home and viewing things on a screen. All of the activities that make a college experience worth having, because the ROI usually in the job market's not there. Let's be honest. Most people graduate with tons of debt and get make-believe pretend jobs that really don't pay them what they thought that they would earn, and now they're saddled with all this debt, and they're wanting a return to normal. And I know a lot of students that just decided to take a year off while all this stuff blew over, which is what I would have done in their situation. And so, this imaginary, it's all about the kids. It's all about the youth, right? We've heard that from liberals for months now. It's all about the kids. It's all about keeping them safe, bull. It's all about making sure that government employees have lots of control over your life, and that your experience can be, flushed down the toilet as long as their jobs still stay where they are. So those are some of the headlines. If you want more news and opinion at the state, local, and national level, go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com, subscribe to that email newsletter, share this video. If you've got a bunch of conservative friends that follow you on Facebook or other social media platforms, share this video, invite them to subscribe, because it really helps us find the people we need to get the news out there. And so Robert Long just hopped on here. Kelly, watching from Blunttville, Tennessee, thank you so much. Just drove down from Powell and Nashville. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have all of you here. If you will go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com and $10, $20, whatever you got, just help a conservative news publication out, and we'll send you 2 Proud Tennessee Conservative bumper stickers. Dana is here from Clarksville, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us, Dana. And we'll send you a directory of the state and local representatives and senators and the governor's office here. If you ever want to weigh in on legislation, and if you get $50 or more, you'll get this Proud Tennessee Conservative tumbler. And I drank coffee out of this puppy on the way from Blue Ridge, Georgia, here to do the news with you. Cut my vacation short because I want to be here with you, because I enjoy this. It's very important. What we do here is to keep grassroots conservatives informed about what's going on in Tennessee, so they can make really good decisions on policy and on politics. Brandon Lewis here with the Tennessee Conservative News. I enjoyed being with you today. Show up here tomorrow around 12 o'clock. We'll do it again. Take care, guys. Be good.